This video was originally uploaded on the Yeousch main channel. Please enjoy it, but understand the weird references potentially. Welcome to Pokemon of the Week with your individual here, Onion Gravy 64, and welcome back to Pokemon of the Week. Or if this is your first one, what the hell have you been doing? Go and watch the other ones. Anyway, the Pokemon for this week is Spiritomb, number 442 in the Pokédex, and it is currently in the rarely used category, otherwise known as the rarely used tier. It has two abilities. Unfortunately though, you're only going to see the first one, and the first one is Pressure. Basically, anytime the opponent uses a move, it uses twice as much PP, meaning its moves run out of ability to be used twice as quickly. Infiltrator is an interesting ability, so I'll explain what it is anyway. Basically, the Spiritomb with Infiltrator will ignore the effects of Reflect, Light Screen, Safeguard and Mist. Basically, it means your damage output is going to be much more consistent. Pressure is much better though on a Pokemon that can rely heavily on stalling most of the time. Its base stats are very unusual in fact, especially for ghost types which tend to be either rather frail or on the exact opposite end of the spectrum. Spiritomb is quite handy on the attack and the defense on both sides. Both of its attack stats are 92 and both of its defenses are 108. Both of these, I would say 92 is just above average and 108 is pretty good. You then look at its health stat and think, oh dear me, how has this gone so horribly wrong? Base 50 is not very good. Then you look at its speed and it's even worse. You'll be happy to know though that Spiritomb can get around its absolutely awful speed most of the time. I will talk about that in the sets when we get there. Spiritomb is a Ghost Dark type. Alongside Sableye, it is a Pokemon that has no type weaknesses. Yep, you heard that right. Zero type weaknesses. It is not weak to any type. No type will do more than regular damage on it. To put this in perspective though, it is only resistant to poison, so it's kind of not quite as great as it looks, this type, but you do get 3 immunities, so that's very handy. Normal, Fighting and Psychic all do absolutely nothing to you. There are a few Pokemon with 3 immunities. For example, Drifblim, it would be weak to quite a lot of types, but it would be immune to Normal, Fighting and Ground. And in this case, 2 of those types, Fighting and Psychic, are both very common in higher tiers, which does bode well if you want to try it in a higher tier than RU. The first set is, well, it's a set that used to be better in the past, but it is still arguably the most common one. It's to do about Calm Minding, and then using the Sleep Talk and Rest combination to make sure you never die. Most of the sets that Spiritomb are involved in are very defensive, and because its HP is so woefully terrible, almost every set is maximum HP. You have to maximise your HP to make it from abysmal to kind of barely passable. In this case, maximising your defence is also the priority because Calm Mind boosts your special attack and special defence by 1 stage each time you use it. So common sense dictates the way you play this set is you Calm Mind up a few times until you get low on health, you then rest it off, and you Sleep Talk while you're asleep because you will be asleep for 2 turns, and you know this because that's how the rest mechanics work. You use Sleep Talk twice and hope you either Calm Mind up more, or use your 1 attack in the form of Dark Pulse. The problem with the Rest and Sleep Talk combo is that when you use Sleep Talk, 1/3 of the time it will pick Calm Mind, 1/3 of the time it will pick Dark Pulse, and 1/3 of the time it will pick Rest, and therefore do absolutely nothing, because you're already asleep. That is why Sleep Talk and Rest together aren't the most popular, the other being the sleep mechanics, which I think I mentioned 2 videos ago. In case you missed that, the current generation, as of me talking right now, the 5th generation, the sleep mechanics were changed so that if you switch out, the sleep timer reset. So in essence, you're asleep for longer than you would be in previous generations. That's why it's not quite as common. However, as you can see with the note there, without Sleep Talk on this set, for example if you went for a second attack, you are complete setup fodder if you rest. Because the 2 turns where you will be Sleep Talking, you're just going to sleep and do nothing! The other alternative for this set, which is kind of not as good because you only get the one opportunity to set up if you do it this way, is to replace Sleep Talk with an attack and switch your item from leftovers to a Lumberry or a Chesto Berry. I would recommend, if you're going to go for that system, go for the Chesto, because obviously a Lumberry will heal all status, and that means, for example, if you got Toxic at 100% health, normally you wouldn't be too bothered by that as a Spiritomb because you could rest it off. The Lumberry would remove the Toxic, but if you use rest afterwards, you would still have to sleep because you've used your one use berry up. So do be very careful with that. You'll notice in most of these sets that Bold is a very good nature to go for. Bold is attack, down, defense, up, just in case you didn't know. The second set is a set called Enigma, and it's called that because that's the nickname of my Spiritomb which uses this set. It's a version of the first set that focuses on calm minding, but then does not do rest and sleep talk. It goes for something completely different. As you noticed in the items already, I assume, the leftovers / Lumberry option is there again, and I'll explain why the Lumberry is more logical on this set than on the first one. Let's have a look at the moves first though. Calm Mind is still the same, hence the name of the set. Dark Pulse is still there. Dark Pulse is a dark type stab move which can sometimes flinch. The sometimes flinch is completely pointless when you're Spiritomb because you will probably never outspeed anything ever. But don't worry about that. Dark is still a very reliable type to use on the attack. Combine this with Hidden Power Fighting and it becomes a fantastic combination. Dark and Fighting as a combination are barely resisted by anything. I mean, for example, Heracross is one of these things, and that is probably the only resistance to these two move types that you're ever going to see, so don't worry too much at all. Your last move though in this set is what sets it apart from the first one. Rather than resting and sleep talking hoping you pick your attack, Pain Split is the other HP recovery method that Spiritomb has in its arsenal. The reason it's not quite as popular is because it's much harder to predict with, and as you can kind of guess by the name, it is semi-reliable only. Pain Split takes your health and it takes the opponent's health, adds them together, splits them by 2 and gives the health back. This is fantastic if you use Pain Split on a Blissey, for example, because most Blisseys have over 700 HP. So obviously you're going to heal yourself if it's anywhere near maximum. However, Pain Split can become a burden if you accidentally Pain Split a Pokemon that doesn't have enough health. If both the Pokemon on the field, including yourself, don't have enough health that Pain Split becomes an option, you are stuck. So you do have to bear this in mind. The positive for this is that you get a second attack move, and the other advantage is that you don't have to be asleep at all and waste turns by sleep talking and picking rest by accident. So the IVs there on the screen in the sort of reddish brown colour are the IVs you would need for Hidden Power Fighting. And your choice of item, as I alluded to a little bit earlier, is a very interesting one. Leftovers kind of goes quite well to semi-help you with the semi-reliable Pain Split. Lumberry though is a very viable alternative because this set has no way of healing status by itself. You can go for Leftovers if you combine it with another Pokemon that has Heal Bell. And Heal Bell is quite a common move. For example, Clefable is a Pokemon that quite often goes alongside Spiritomb as the two walls to a team, simply because their types complement one another rather well. So that is an alternative. I did mention Lantern in the previous video. That is always an alternative in the UU tiers. That is a very good Pokemon. I think it's in UU now, so don't use it in RU. If you're using Spiritomb in UU, Lantern's a great ally. It's a great ally with almost anything that requires status removal. Anyway, let's get on to the third set. And it is what I call the Maximum Defensive. This is sort of the Maximum Tomato, or Maximum Tomato version of any Spiritomb set you'll ever come across, because this is the one that has the least setup factor but is by far and away the most sturdy. Your choice of EVs, though, are very much open to interpretation. You maximise your HP to make your defences as efficient as possible. From there, though, how you spread your defensive EVs is very much up to you. I prefer this because, generally speaking, once people identify that you are not a calm mind Spiritomb, they will focus on attacking you specially. So if you give the game, most people using Spiritomb will give the game away very early, what sort of set it is, because they'll either use Calm Mind or Nasty Plot, and that will indicate immediately they're going more offensive. Obviously you don't have that on this set, so people will probably work you out and go for the special side, especially because you have Will-O-Wisp. Burning your opposition results in their attack being dropped 2 stages, which will by default mean that people will prefer to attack you on the special side. I know, for example, that on the Smogon website, they recommend more physical defense EVs than I do. It's all up to how you want to play this and how smart you are, really, because if you can catch Pokemon coming in that are physical and burn them, then you are going to make yourself much more formidable with the EV spread like this. If you want to be less prediction based and want to be able to take on something that switches into you, going for physical EVs is a perfectly fine alternative. You may be a bit confused as well why there's Shadow Sneak and Sucker Punch on the same set. Both of them are priority moves, so that gets around the fact that your speed is hopeless. Shadow Sneak has an advantage over Sucker Punch in that it always works. It will always be pulled off. Unlike Sucker Punch requires the opponent to be planning to attack you. So for example, if the opponent decides to put a substitute up, Sucker Punch will fail, and as a result will get a substitute for free, whereas Shadow Sneak will always work regardless of what they plan to do. Shadow Sneak is also a very good move specifically to take out Gallade, which can become a big problem if it's the bulk up set. So Spiritomb shuts that down very efficiently. Pain Split is just there as your move of choice to heal, because you don't have 2 move slots left for Rest and Sleep Talk respectively. So you need to use Pain Split. It's the one big downside. If Spiritomb, like Sableye, its Dark Ghost cousin, if Hit 2 had access to Recover, it would be a much more commonly used Pokemon than it is. It's still quite commonly used now. As I said, put in the note, the choice of defensive EVs are completely up to you. Now the final set that I'm talking about is the Going Physical set. This is the one set where a defense or special defense plus nature is not going to occur, and the way that this Pokemon set is used means that Spiritomb, rather than just absorbing all the hits and sort of annoying people until they switch out or die, this Spiritomb operates in a completely different way. This is all about trapping psychic types which can do absolutely nothing to you, and either sucker punching them to death, pursuing them on their escape and killing them, or, again for the Gallade factor, shadow sneaking and killing them before they can bulk up. Will-O-Wisp is there in tandem because Will-O-Wisp is just a fantastic move in general, and Spiritomb's attacking move pool is pretty abysmal. It doesn't have a whole lot of different moves going for it. The reason this is so common is because this is the best set in which to spin block, and what that means, in case you're not competitively biased, is that, for example, if you had Stealth Rock on the field and a layer of spikes, those are entry hazards which would be rapid spun away by the opponent. However, you can't use Rapid Spin on a Ghost type because it's not effective in the slightest. It does nothing, which means they can't clear the death-defying entry hazards on the field. There's another very common spin blocker, but it works in a completely different way. Frostlass is a spiker that can do spin blocking as well. This works completely differently. This can't set up its own entry hazards. This just decimates everything that tries to get rid of the entry hazards. It is a very, very useful Pokemon to put alongside very, very strong hitting Life Orb, containing Pokemon on your side that require the entry hazards to do just enough damage to get a one-hit KO. So putting it alongside Pokemon that hit very, very hard, but either require just a bit more, or alternatively, just this is perfect alongside stall sets as well. Simple reason being that in a stall set, you obviously want your toxic spikes to work for as long as possible, so you can just gradually grind Pokemon on the opponent's side down, and that is the way to win that way. So this is quite versatile despite looking very much not the case. Your choice of EVs there, you may look a bit weird when you first look at it. The reason I've put that is because Smogon say that the former is better, whereas the latter is probably the one people will use by default. So I've given you both options there just so you have knowledge, and knowledge is power. I want to make a mention actually to a 5th set. I'm not going to do a full set on this, but my wife, MML Frosty Pixie, she uses a set involving Curse, and Curse for most Pokemon requires you to lower your speed to boost your attack and defense. Because Spiritomb is part Ghost, this doesn't happen. And what happens instead is that you sacrifice 50% of your HP to put a Curse on the opponent. Curse locks a quarter of the opponent's maximum HP off per turn, but is removed via switching out. So common sense dictates that the Pokemon that you've cursed will then switch out. Combine this with Pain Split, and you have a kind of idiot-proof method of at least knocking entry hazard and a bit more worth of damage off the opponent off the start of the game. So this is one alternative to if you can't find your way to getting lots of entry hazards up and they keep getting spun away because you aren't predicting very well. I don't personally use this option because I am a fan of entry hazards and I plan most of my teams around getting entry hazards up. That's how I am. It depends on your playstyle. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the video. Peace out. If you managed to get to the end of last week's video on Yeousch Main, then you will have seen this image, and it's me telling you what I do on my channel. I do Wi-Fi battles, let's plays and strategy guides. Click the subscribe button to go and subscribe. I mean, I certainly would do that, but you can't subscribe to yourself. More importantly though, is this second picture that you will have seen last week, and I can confirm that the videos on this channel, known as Civil Onion, that are about civilization and other strategic games possibly for the future, will begin on March the 10th. I'll confirm this again, March the 10th is when this will start, so get there before March the 10th so you can watch the videos on March the 10th. Subscribe at the button again. Did I make myself clear enough yet? Please? Go on. You know you want to. Right. If you enjoyed the video you've just seen, please join my Facebook group and follow me on Twitter for the latest news.